Oh, hello. Well, since you intruded into my home, I'm sure you're looking to know a bit about Chinese history. Now, the Warring States period from 476 BC to 221 BC was essentially a period of time in which you had what had been the dominant dynasty of China for several centuries, the Zhou, was trying to fight off the various vassal kingdoms in which had been paying tribute to it for several centuries, who were rising up now. They were fed up with paying this tribute. There were approximately 5 other smaller dynasties trying to rise and compete with the Zhou for dominance. However, in the end, it would be the Qin dynasty that won. So how, you ask? I introduce to you the crossbow, a fine piece of Chinese ingenuity. Essentially, with this, you could take what was once something that took several years of training, archery, and you could now give this weapon to a peasant and turn them into a soldier in the matter of a couple days. So, thanks to this fine piece of machinery, the Chinese Qin dynasty rose to a level of prominence that today China still carries this dynasty as its namesake. You know, Qin, it makes sense.
So let's beg the question. Was the crossbow the game changer in the Warring States period in China? So we set up 2 tests. The first test was the velocity test. Each test subject would stand at 10 meters and fire each weapon into our stand-in enemy soldier. We then used a slow motion camera to determine the velocity of each projectile. The second test was the time trial. In the time trial, each contestant, or test subject, had 3 arrows to fire into our enemy soldier. They needed to fire them as quickly and accurately as possible. This would determine the battle efficiency of each weapon.
So, here are the weapons that we're going to test in our experiment. First, we have the simple recurve bow. This is a relatively easy to use weapon and is my personal weapon of choice. It has a simple mechanism for firing and just relatively an easy to use weapon of choice for me. Next, this is the arrow for the recurve bow. It's of mid-range length, it lightweight, and has a practice tip on it. Next, we have the crossbow, a much heavier bow to use. It's got a mechanism similar to a gun with a trigger, and it also has iron sights for aiming. A crossbow, however, unlike a recurve or compound bow, fires a bolt instead of an arrow. A bolt is basically a smaller arrow, but with the heavier tip, it can penetrate further into targets and just really work just as well as a larger arrow could. Finally, we have the compound bow. It's a modern bow, Michael's weapon of choice, and really, it uses the swivel mechanism to get a mechanical advantage, and it can fire arrows more efficiently than many other weapons can. The arrow for the compound bow is of both a larger mass and length. It's aerodynamic and really has a similar tip, a practice tip, similar to the recurve bow, and yeah. Now, on to the experiment.